All right. But let's continue with the conversation. I think this is a very informative and progressive conversation. There's been disagreements here or there, but we've been respectful for the most part, so we can continue. Um,
Yeah.
Let me see. Somebody hasn't. Thomas, you haven't spoken, have you, Thomas?
No, I just was listening to everybody, respectfully, you know. And also before I start, I'm gonna just say, I appreciate you for allowing me to come up here. You know, you make FBA look simple and you're very informative, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Um, Now, one thing I really want to touch on is the fact that people people were speaking on, how could black people of today can be a Republican or vote Republican or vote for Trump for that matter. Black people is just tired of being taken advantage of. And they made that loud and clear during this election.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't support the Democrats or the Republicans. I believe especially black Americans, should have their own party. You know what I'm saying? Because we need to be pushing our own agendas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that.
Mm.
Now, now, see, it's a lot of pushback. And over the years I've been seeing a lot of pushback when it comes to black Americans having their agendas pushed and so on and so forth. And that goes into hand in hand with these crime bills and so on and so forth. You know. And it's like sometimes it's tiresome, but like I said, man, you clarified a lot of things for me personally. As many times as I've heard you on these panels and you expressed a lot of things that I support. So, you know what I mean? I'm just keep it short and I'm just land my plane. But when people speak of the Affordable Care Act by Obama in his administration, you got to look where he got that from.
Okay.
He got that ideology, that bill and all that other stuff from a Republican.
Mm.
And when you sitting there saying that, oh, Obama did XYZ, Mitt Romney was doing it first, and that's where he got it from, Massachusetts. But they was doing it on a local level instead of a national level. So when people start putting that out there, then you got to look at really the homework of where Obama had got that from. So with that, I'm gonna just land my plane.
Mm. All right. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce your name. PG.
Hey, what's,
What's up, brother?
what's going on, man? Thanks for having me up. It's PM Gallery or PMG, either one.
Oh,
But I
okay.
appreciate it. Yeah, that's my for my art purposes, I do, artwork, things like that. But I agree with the brother was just speaking about as far as the parties go. I think right now we're still behind the curve on a lot of things. The game has got so far past us. We still stuck on Republican and Democrat when both of those parties are so deeply entrenched in a system that neither one is going to benefit us no matter who gets in it, because the gatekeepers to in any of those parties, they all serve the same people. If you look and you follow the money trail of these parties, they all are being supported by the same exact people. It's like, what do you want, firing squad or the news? Either way it go, you're going to get it. It's just one is slower than the others. From what I've been observing, especially as of lately, it just seems as though the Democratic Party is moving in an accelerated rate. And the Republican Party, they're still moving in the same direction, just at a slower rate. So you could it's palatable almost, sort of like how they raise taxes little by little by little, but they're still taxing you nevertheless. Like you look at Trump, he was already in office before. Why wasn't all of these positive things and all this stuff done before? He didn't care. He was the only president in 100 years that had a chance to abolish the Federal Reserve Bank. That is a monstrous entity on a world scale. I mean, a world scale. They control our money and they're not even a government entity. And he could have ended that, but he didn't. Why? Because he serves the same people. The Democrats, all of them, they need to, it just all need to be scorched in their own party. We need our own party for our own interests. None of them are going to serve. They won't even let people into those camps that will serve your interest. They won't. And I think that at this point, for them, it's not a matter of YT supremacy or any of that stuff. It never was. It was never about them hating your color or any of that. Some of them on a lower level do. That's bigotry. But for the most part, it was always about money. It was about wealth. And especially now, we are in a great reset of financial as well as social reset, reconstruction of this entire world. We're playing on a global level, not a state, not a city, not a anything. We have been globalized in trade and world. So we got to look at things we have to look at it like this, a hive. We can send our people out to move amongst all these different worlds because we don't have our own community no more. That's been demolished. It's gone. But we have to form one again. We have to be able to send those people out and have them bring the honey back home. Have it bring it back home to where as though we can formulate and build that hive back up again. Move about throughout the country, through different people, through different things, and come back. And we need our own party. We need our own political system if we have to, which leads me to another thing. You hear one red flag for me is whenever I hear out of these politicians' mouth the word democracy. This country is not and has never been a democracy. A democracy is mob rule. This is a constitutional republic. And anybody that graduated kindergarten knows that when they do the Pledge of Allegiance. This is a constitutional republic. And whenever you hear a politician say that, who are you serving? Because we're not a democracy. The people that founded this country were they fought their country to get out of that democracy. Tooth and nail, life and death to get away from that because they understood what that actually is. And here we are when the politicians jump talking about reserve of Trump, Biden, Harris, all of them. Y'all democracy. Who are these people? Because that's not the American people. That's not even America. And people don't understand that. Another thing, when they talking about reparations, you will never get that. Never, ever. You know why? Because that's an admission. It's an admission of guilt. And right now, what they're doing is saying, hey, look, well, I wasn't here and I didn't do that to you. But the system that you thrive and survive on is still here because they set it up generationally so that it would outlast them and outsurvive them, right? But for them to give that to you is basically saying, okay, this is the reason why they're trying to wipe us out, because every single time they turn around and look at us, it's an admission that I would not be here if it wasn't for you and yours, and I am benefiting off of your destruction. My lineage is benefiting off of your destruction, and that's a hard pill to swallow for people. So they would rather wipe you out.
I don't agree with the stance on reparations, brother.
But let me speak to you why. I'm saying I'm not disapproving reparations. I'm saying why I don't believe that we will get them is because for them,
we rebuke that.
What does it matter if they do it and they feel guilty or not? What would that matter?
What I'm saying is the reasoning behind it, because if you know what motivates the pieces on the board, you know how to move around the pieces on the board, is what I'm saying. I'm for that because to me, that's inheritance. My family, my fathers worked for something and they would have passed it down, but you took that and gave it to somebody else. I'm for that. And in certain forms, I'm for that. Why I'm saying they won't do that is because it's admitting that I owe you. And for them to give that to you, like she said, if one of the ladies that was up here before, she was from Jamaica or whatever it is, she said once that would start, it would start a chain reaction around the world. Do you really think people want a chain reaction around the world of having to give up their wealth? a person to give up their family a lot of time before they would
But
give up their
yeah, that's
wealth.
Can
as
I
true
tell you
as that
something?
is, as true as that is,
And
it's
and
not about what they want. See, that's the thing. We've used to had the thing of we have to do something that convinces them to want something different. We don't care if they want to give us reparations or not. We don't care if they want to do it. They're going to do it because they do. The system ultimately, there's more of us than it is of them. There's always and this is world history, there's always more of the people than there is of the government. In world history, there's not a single place in the world where there's a larger amount of people in the government than there are in of the citizenry. All right, there's more citizens. The thing is, the citizens have to really acquiesce to the government in order for the government to have power. So the government really relies on the system of the citizens, and this is how world history has worked. But the thing is that most of the citizens actually do side with, and to a degree, capitulate to the government and what the government's rules are. The thing is that as long as we say, hey, no, we're getting reparations, you're going to have to cut this check, and we're not letting this issue go, then things will change. We don't need them to want to do it. If they wanted to do it, it would have been done by now. So they clearly don't want to do it. So I think we should move past the having the conversation. We know why they don't want to do it. We can come up with reasons why they don't want to do it all day long, but they're gonna do it because it's not about what they want; it's about what we want at this point.
now, respectfully, brother, we've been wanted that, but we haven't gotten it.
No,
All of us wanted that, but we haven't
we've
gotten it.
never we've never
Collectively, the
had
Million
enough
Man
we've
March.
never had enough
We,
people who are on code who put that at the the forefront of their priorities. We've had people who wanted it, but we have not had a critical mass of black Americans who've put reparations at the forefront of their priority list. This is really the very first time we've had that. We've
uh,
had people who like, do you want reparations? Well, sure, yeah, I guess I want reparations, but they don't put that at the forefront of their priority list. If you have a critical mass of people who put reparations at the forefront of their priority list, then it will start to change things.
I see what you're saying in a spearheaded form. We have had that. We had. I remember a
When have we
million
had that
men
about
getting
slavery
on a
reparations?
bus and going up to Washington and demanding that we have that. The Million Man, a
Demanding that we had
million
what?
people
Slave, hold
assembled.
on, hold on. Demanding that we had slavery reparations. When have we done that?
The Million Man March. It was spoken on
That
there
was
too.
not about slavery reparations.
It
That's
it
not what that was about.
It
it
certainly
it, it
wasn't.
was covered. It was covered in that also. But I'm
No,
just
that was
saying.
not. I'm talking about this is the number one priority. Okay, we're not talking about anything else. It's not number two, number three. This is absolutely number one. We've never had a collective of everybody saying reparations is the number one priority, and we're not talking about anything else until we talk about reparations. A collective mass of us who've done that. We have not had that movement before.
If I could speak
Yeah,
on
not since the
reparations,
Civil
please.
War, like somebody was saying, and they did the resettling, but then they end up taking that back. But listen, just to go back to the point where I'm saying it, because I don't want to get too far for that. But those parties, they just need to be dissolved completely. As far as our dealings with them, and no, we don't have to ask them for anything. We can demand all we want, but basically, we are building it from a. But in general, this country is done. This country is done. This is like Rome right now for them. And if you notice, all
Okay,
the
wait,
acts
wait,
of
wait, 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 wait,
yeah.
wait, wait. Did we
Hold
ask
on, hold
you
on. I'm
which
landing a
reparation
plane right now. I'm landing a
ethnicity
plane
was?
right. Let me land.
Because
Let me
you're talking
land.
That's
about
a
this
I
good
listen
country
question
is
right
respectfully.
there.
done.
I listen
I would want to know that
respectfully.
myself.
Let me land,
This is
please.
crazy.
Please let me land now,
Yeah,
please.
you've been
This
okay.
country,
Go ahead.
this country is in a decline. This country is the poorest country in this world, the most indebted country in this world. They don't have anything to give. They can
You
only
talking
take.
now?
Our men,
Okay, sir, I can't continue to let you babble like that. It's disrupting the flow of the platform and
If I
changing
could
the
say something
energy.
about the
Please.
Energy. So
reparations,
I rebuke
pause.
his notions on reparations. I rebuke the notion that this country is done. Everybody is flocking here and the country is done. Yeah, okay, sir.
Uh,
Put the bottle down. Who's
if
next,
if
Afro?
It was me. I just
if
want to
I
say
may,
this part. Piggybacking off UBX, I don't want to say too much because you got to protect some things. And I'm glad you
All right. Mm-hmm.
said that. But I will say for us that, A lot of it, with that going forth and that agenda of what we are demanding and what we will get, a lot of it is going to have to go back to the households and like restructuring our culture and having conversations within our households for the people that's going out into society looking like us and having an agenda every day when they go outside looking like us. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Can I make a comment real quick now?
Hold on. I want retro. You had a question or something, right?
Uh,
And then we haven't had what's his Black Ice hasn't
you know,
spoken.
I'm gonna just jump to the last thing I heard, because I can't even remember what I was originally gonna say. It was probably in regards to what we were prioritizing, and I agree with you and BX as far as the reparations are concerned. We all probably have a few different ideas on how it can be done, but ultimately, I think one thing that really irks me is the people who are defeated and giving up on reparations are so mad, sad that they didn't get whatever that they want. They want to stand in our way. And the thing I really want to say before I land my plane is this may not be your ministry. We who are fighting for reparations, we gonna fight legislatively through litigation. We are not asking. We are going to force them, and it's a reallocation of funds. It's not all about cash. There are tax breaks, legal protections, and all kinds of systemic racism that we can address through reparations without even giving one dime. That would still help our community, especially with generational wealth. So with that being said, I want y'all just stand out the way. You don't have to fight, but don't jump in our way because Harriet Tubman would have blew your head off trying to tell us what we ain't gonna get. And one last thing, if you really believe that we're not gonna get them, can you please sign a petition to give your reparations to the people that's fighting for them? Are you willing to do that, or
Well,
you still gonna have your hand out when the reparations get delegated? Then you're gonna be saying, "Oh, I'm black, I'm FBA, give me my reparations," but you were the main person in the way when we was all fighting and talking about it. I'll land there.
Afro Elite, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate this panel. Y'all have a good night.
Appreciate you,
you
brother. You have a good
too. Good night.
Let me get to Black Ice. You had something to say.
Yeah. Thank you, Afro Elite. And I do think it, as the elders and the man that said he was an artist, it's important to project positivity and actually understand. I find it ironic that a younger person was going to comment on the Million Man March to correct you, but that I don't want to digress. But I think let me read the prompt: Who's worse for Black people, the Democratic or Republican? I think that's a mute issue. The biggest thing is ourselves. I look at when we need to educate ourselves financially and politically because the biggest thing is it's almost like looking at how we wear clothes, right? So let's just say we fit in a size small shirt, but we're asking to say no, we wear a double XL. And what I mean by that is we're not using the existing policies and procedures inside the political realm and inside government to its maximum potential. But yet we think we can handle the double XL shirt. And we need to utilize what tools we have so we become greater and we can take on the double XL, right? We have to grow into the double XL.
Can you specify the tools that you're speaking of?
Like, for instance, you were talking about in the law enforcement and racial inflamed crimes, right? The FBI within its group monitors activity not only in police departments and sheriff's departments, but they also look at the judges. So we need to hold these people sitting on committees and sitting on statistics about, hey, if it's in if Philadelphia, for instance, or whatever, these people need to lose their federal funding. So we need to be on that conscious level of what even existed in the 60s and 70s and get to that where we are now so we can get better ahead. We have been sleepwalking for years and years and years, and we don't even know what the tools that made things effective to what the civil rights policies and procedures enact, using it even today as a benchmark. And so we need to do better on that. And then also, I think the biggest thing for me to help people understand the magnitude of reparations is just taking. I always use Haiti and how the U.S. government took the gold and established Citigroup. And Citigroup earns about $8 billion in profit a year. And so that is just 1 second in regards to the economic growth in the GDP that was created off of slavery. Not alone the colonization part, that mental and everything that we've gone through. It puts a magnitude of when people say we as a black culture need to educate ourselves in regards to the magnitude of reparations and how we equate it to today, right? Um, and I just wanted to say that and land my plane, but I think it's up to us as so some of us. You guys are younger, but if we're going to come on these panels and we're elders, we need to give hope and spirit to say yes, it can happen, because we have witnessed things that some people that are older say will never happen because that's the colonization mindset. But it can happen. You guys are doing the right thing. It can happen, and it will happen. And I
Yeah,
land my
it
plane.
definitely will happen. It definitely will happen. Um, in the chat room though, I can't help but notice that it seemed like you were leaning more towards the Democratic side, which is if that's your stance, then that's that's fine and we can respect that. But it seemed like anybody who was speaking against the Democratic side, you had something to retort to. So is that as far as the prompt is concerned? I just want to get your opinion on which party do you think does more damage or is more beneficial, or are they both the same?
They are both. I think it's we choose to place. Like you mentioned earlier, you were talking. It was a great point that I think we need to understand that all cultures, even our own, use both parties. I think the biggest example is affirmative action. In order for affirmative action to get pushed through, was that both minorities on both the Democratic and Republican side. The father of affirmative action is a black Republican. The civil rights enactment of affirmative action was in the Nixon administration. So, but it all had to get through. Perrin Mitchell was a Democrat. So we have to understand and really understand our history and how we got to where we are and where we need to go.
Okay, well
So
let me ask the question again.
sure,
Which party do you think is worse? Like, do you think does more damage to the community?
that's what. But see, this is Afro. I'm not. See, this is why it's
Because
important.
it seems like I'm not really getting a solid answer.
No, because
I
because the
understand that.
biggest thing is ourselves. Because
But okay, yeah,
every community uses Democrats and Republicans. We should not even
it,
talk
it,
about that.
no. Here's the thing: when we have this
Mhm.
conversation, we tend to be all like, you know what we need to do and we need to do and what we need to do, and that's an important conversation. But that's a different conversation. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Mm.
asking because we have elections that are coming up, and you're going to
Mhm.
have Democrats and you're going to have Republicans, and you're going to have both of them are going to say, "Hey, they're the good guy," and or I'm the good guy and they're the bad guy. So I'm
Yeah,
asking to get a census, a general consensus of Black Americans. Who do they think does more damage to the community as a collective?
and you
Which
mentioned
party
and
do
you
you
mentioned
think their policies
exactly.
and the
It,
people in
it,
them do more
it,
damage or more benefit?
right. And so the reason why I say that, and you mentioned it perfectly, who is for our agenda? And so it's not, and everybody's agenda changes on different parts of the United States. And I think that we as Black people shouldn't look at the political party. We should look at the agenda from our local representatives to our national representatives. I don't want, like I said, I wouldn't tell young people to go that route because it didn't get us anywhere. That is like taking advantage of us. And it's kind of like
Okay, can I
economic
ask, let
development.
me okay, let me ask you another question.
Sure.
You vote in the last election?
Did I?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Who did you vote for?
I'm not going to tell you. I voted for the president and for my local representatives and my judges. I was bipartisan.
Okay, so you were bipartisan.
Correct.
It, okay. So you're
Meaning,
not going to tell me who
meaning,
are you
well,
are you
because
registered with any
because
party? Are you registered with any party, sir?
I am registered with the party, but
Okay,
you but like
you're not going to tell us the
but I
party you're registered. Are you not going to tell us the party you're registered with?
okay, and yeah, you're correct. I'm not going to tell you, but why am I not going to tell you?
because they have privacy rights.
And
I'm not gonna make him say it, but it seems like we're doing a lot because the question is very simple, and every time I ask which is worse, which you believe one is worse than the other, because you did vote for one over the other in the last election, so you picked one over the other in the last election, but you don't want to stand by who you picked. So
no, no, no.
I mean, if that's the case,
I
we're
don't,
gonna
no,
have to
no,
move
no, no,
on.
no, no. I picked somebody who is a part of a political party, and so that's where it goes
Okay,
back. It's important to pick the person's agenda and how it benefits
okay,
your community and
but
yourself.
let's say the person's agenda that you picked is a representation is representative of the party that they are associated with. So if you
That's why
pick Kamala Harris, she is a representative of the Democratic Party. If you pick Trump, he is a representative of the Republican Party.
but
So it
that's on a
does show,
national.
sir.
That's correct, but that's on a national level. But when you go bipartisan, you're at a point which I think we as a black community need to do because we look at the agenda
Yeah,
and how it gets pushed.
and sir, I agree, and I've been saying that for the longest time. I've been
Mhm.
saying that for the longest time, and if we don't get past this point, we're gonna have to move on. I've been saying that for the longest time. I'm saying you pick somebody because you believe that one was better than the other. So this question is asking which is better than the other, and you keep talking about what we need to do ourselves, even though you do believe, because you did vote for one, you do believe that one party is more beneficial than the other party. So I don't understand why is it like pulling teeth out of your mouth to get you
Because
to
my
say
ballot. Well, because of my ballot.
whichever one we can respect that opinion and we can move on with the conversation and we can allow you to elaborate on why you think
Well,
that way. But is
my
you're
ballot. My
dodging, you're
ballot.
beating
My,
around the
my
bush, sir.
Well, no, I'm not because my ballot. Because there was other measures and other people. I didn't just go with Trump or Kamala based upon their political association. So when I went to the voters, my whole ticket wasn't like, okay, you
Okay.
represent some right. So that's why I
What
said bipartisan.
what were your issues? What were your primary issues that you voted for?
I
The
looked I
top of
looked
the
at
list
more
that you voted for.
right. So what I do is because like I said, I'm a more elder and I've been in political and economic development. So I look at how each person with what they're bringing, what their credentials are, how it can be better, right? So like for instance,
How it can
Maxine
bring
Waters, for
better.
instance. Yeah, so Maxine Waters, for instance, right? So somebody
Okay,
mentioned
sir. Thank you. All
because
right.
I'm
Because
bringing you
we're
some.
going around in this circle. Well, honestly, we're
I'm
going
not,
around in a circle. We don't want
but
to
the
say
main
who the
circle
person,
is
and it
correct,
is what it is. Because if
correct.
you said that, I'm not gonna kick you off if you say Trump. I'm not gonna kick you off if you say Kamala. But then we can have a conversation about it. But if you requested to come up and you don't want to answer the prop, so we're gonna have to move on.
Yeah, right. And I just wanted to say I answered to the fact that I said that we as black people are our worst enemy. We're greater than
But
Republican or
the thing
Democrat. I'll land
is,
my plane.
that's not what the prompt is. You're answering a question. That's not what the prompt is. And then I let you go ahead. And then when I say,
Okay,
you know what, okay,
I'll land my
now you
plane.
got to
Forgive
answer
me.
the
You're
prompt.
correct.
You
You're
don't want to
correct.
do that.
You're correct. You're correct.
All right. So okay. We'll go ahead and we'll move on to damn. Damn, what do you have? What's your answer to the prompt?
What's my answer to the problem? I
Yeah.
voted for Trump. I
Well, I
feel like
didn't. Let me
I
refresh. I'm not
no,
asking
no,
who you voted
no,
for. I'm asking which party is
yeah,
worse.
that's what I
Okay,
said.
so you said you voted for Trump. Okay, can you explain, elaborate?
I feel like the Democrats the worst.
Okay, all right. Well, can you elaborate as to why you feel the Democrats are worse?
I feel like they the worst because like my eyes is being opening and I'm seeing like every day like even with my kids being in school like cause from when I was growing up like I ain't seen this shit that they seeing like brainwashing shit like
Well, let's keep the cussing to
I mean my brainwashing stuff like in the schools and stuff like that, we used to have the national anthem, the black national anthem. They don't even know about that. They know about if they want to be confused and stuff like that. Like that's why I voted
They,
for Republican because they trying to take
now,
that
when you
out.
say they want to be confused, what do you mean by that exactly?
Plus, they don't like they confusing our kids if they boy or a girl. I ain't trying to disrespect nobody out there, but it's for the
I
kids.
just want things to be clear so
Yeah,
everybody can
yeah,
understand
yeah,
whether they agree or disagree, but
yeah,
everybody can understand your
yeah,
stance.
yeah. Cause I got a daughter and a son. Like, cause when I was growing up, all this stuff that we seeing now that's confusing the kids, I didn't seen that. I ain't see that when I was growing up.
Okay.
You feel me? Like
Okay.
with Obama, they like that shit was confusing, man. That shit was confusing.
Okay. So your main issue why you voted for Trump, and I'm just getting your stance. This isn't I know I've been back and forth with
Yeah,
some people, but this is really supposed to be a respectful dialogue,
yeah,
not a
yeah,
debate
yeah.
where
I
y'all
ain't,
get.
I ain't, I don't, I ain't
But
disrespecting nobody.
you the main thing is you didn't like the
But
agenda about like
yes,
gender fluidity that's being taught in public schools, and by
yes,
the Democrat, that's
yes,
essentially something that is pushed by the Democratic Party.
yes. Cause
Okay.
even if you got a girl, anything they don't like for you to be sassy, but that's what I'm saying. So what what is the problem when the kids being sassy? How you gonna teach your man your son and stuff to be man?
Okay.
You know, we need more men out here. We don't. If a man can't be no man, then what we got? If a man
Okay.
can't be a man, then what we got?
Okay.
Because if we try to be men and women downgrade us of being who we try to be.
Okay.
You
But
know?
let's not. I don't want to get too off
Okay,
subject
okay, 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 okay.
that can go into a whole
Yeah,
nother
yeah,
thing. I
yeah,
just want
yeah,
to get your stance as far as the
yeah.
policy
Okay,
is
okay.
concerned. Is there
My bad.
anything that so you just voted off this one issue? You wouldn't
No,
necessarily
no, it
say
wasn't, it
you're a
wasn't, it wasn't, it
Republican.
wasn't just that. It was just like I felt like we needed a leader, somebody that's strong, that's gonna stand up for the American people.
Okay.
Whether you white or black, we need somebody that's gonna stand up. Like we don't need nobody that's going doing stuff for other people across the country. We need problems. We got homeless people in America. We got we got black, white people that's homeless in America. And then they come over here. People come from Venezuela, from all over the country, come over here and get more opportunity than the people that's been born here in America. You know,
Okay.
what about the reparations? What
Okay.
about what about that? What about the people that's been here? We black black people have been here, and we come on.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, God damn.
Afro, I got a quick question. I put it in the statements. So during the Obama administration, was the House and Senate dominated by the Democratic Party? Was it Republican?
When he first got in, it was Democrat.
Okay. So his second term was Republican. And I think that's where we're, like I mentioned before, that we
I'm
need to
just
do
tired of
better
these black faces, man.
Okay,
as a,
well, that's we can respect, but I want to get to some of the other people who haven't spoken. It's a little late. We're not going to be able to be on all night. I got a busy day tomorrow, so we want to respect everybody's time. With that, we want to respect everybody's time. Now, whether we agree or disagree, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I didn't vote for Trump, you know, but I didn't vote for Harris. You know, I My thing is, I'm like a businessman. You got to check the list off. You got to check the boxes off. You know, looked at Trump's agenda. He didn't check off the boxes. Look at Harris's agenda. She didn't check off the boxes. So that's where I'm at with it. Okay. Um, so I was on the couch. I was on the couch actually. Well, I was actually doing a podcast, but virtually I was on the couch. So that's my stance on it. So I'm not I'm not going to sit up here and bash anybody for voting for either one, because I don't believe that Harris was a good choice, not that Trump was a good choice. So if you voted for Trump, okay, well, why did you do that? If you voted for Harris, why did you do that? Just be honest with it, and then we can have a respectful conversation. And whether I agree or disagree, I can still have a respectful conversation with you. But before we continue the conversation, let's get to Oh Majesty.
Okay. Good. Thank you for allowing me up.
Of course,
And
yes.
good morning. Actually, between the two, I truly am upset these days about both of them. But if I had to pick between the two, it would have been the Democrats. And I
Okay.
would have went with them mainly because they've always at least taken care of the poor and the the downtrodden a little better than the Republican. And also, I think about the children going to school and everything. They need they needed support, for the schooling. So
You mean
if
like
I were
public
to
school, or
pick
you mean
between
like
the two,
college?
it would have been
Hold on.
the
When
Democrat.
you say schooling, I just want everything to be clear. You mean like public school, like K through 12?
Yes,
You mean like college? Okay, K through 12. Okay, continue.
and I really feel stressed about this whole thing. So when it comes to getting reparations, they are long overdue.
Agreed.
But from a religious point of view, uh, it is written, so far as my understanding within the scriptures, that we wouldn't be able to get anything from you know from the enemy. So,
Okay.
and I always see the government, primarily as our enemy.
Okay. All right. Well, um, you're referring to the Bible, right? What? Okay. But let's not even get into that. Let's not even get into it because that will completely
No, I was
segue the
just saying my
conversation into
personal
something else.
opinion
But let me
and
let me
why I
ask
got
you. You
there.
said you're upset recently with the Democrats and Republicans. You're upset with both parties. So what are you upset with both parties?
They're not. They both seem to be racist, as far as I'm concerned,
Okay. Okay.
and that's primary on my list right now. Because the safety for our people, I am, just really concerned that it's a lot of us that are not taking it serious enough, and we've got a lot of young people that need to be, you know, taken care of and provided for, that are lost on the streets, so to speak, and no one's doing anything for them or not enough.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so it's really, I don't think either one of those groups would do all of that they should, but at least the Democrats have, over the past years, seen to that Social Security and social services and programs like WIC and food stamps, stuff like that, were primarily coming strong through the Democrats. So that's why I favor them.
Okay.
But for
So
as the other issues that they have, I don't like them.
okay. So I just want to get your stance just to be 100% clear before we have the conversation. You believe that both of the parties are both equally racist. Both of the parties don't care about black people. Both of the parties are bad. but the Democratic Party supports more government assistance, like food stamps and Section 8 and stuff like that. So that's why you lean more towards them.
Yeah, because it keeps the population at least alive,
Okay. All right then.
even though they're trying to race it, in a racist point of view. On the other end, do us harm.
Okay. All right.
Can I comment now, please?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've been waiting for a minute. And hold on, Majesty, are you done?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, Obek, before I go, I will say, in my personal opinion, that does help some people or whatever the case is, but I'm not going to give too much credit to Section 8 and food stamps. It seems like we're trying to me, certain people, I'm not saying anybody, but we too often, what I see black people doing is try to say, well, they're both bad, but we give a little bit of leeway to the Democratic Party. You know what I'm saying? You know what we overreach and we overextend to give them a little bit more leeway than they deserve. And my
No,
personal opinion.
because see, it's when it comes to life and death, and I mean actual life and death. We can't depend on the Republicans. If they decide to donate, they might, you know. But when it comes to the Democrats, they almost always make sure. You understand? For at least some of us.
I mean, I what
I
where
mean, it's
I
too
would
many
disagree with
kids.
that, where I would disagree with that is I think that as far as, and I'm only talking about black folk, okay, black America. As far as black America, I don't think the Democrats care any more about black Americans than the Republicans do. You know what I'm saying? They don't
Well,
care any
I've
more
been
about black
here
people. And
longer
why I'm
than you,
saying that,
baby,
hold
and
on,
I'm
why
gonna
I'm
tell
saying
you,
that,
I know for a fact that the Democrats have a little more heart than
no, I don't
Republicans.
agree because
A
when you
lot of
look,
them,
hold
the
on, hold on,
megas.
hold on, ma'am. And why I'm saying that is because when you look at Democratic ran cities, when you look at like Chicago, when you look at New York, when you look at these Democratic ran cities, you will see that black people are always 100% at the bottom of the list, at the bottom of the priority list.
Yeah,
And when
they
you look at
get
Flint,
no
Michigan, when you
jobs
look,
and understand
hold
that.
on, man, hold on, man. When you look at these things and you want to say, well, the Democrats do care to some degree, the Democrats don't care to any. There's absolutely no way you
What
can
I got
say
to
that
do with that?
they're. Sir, hold on, hold on.
What I got to do with that? You the only one over there messing the
When
stuff.
I say hold on, that means shut up. That's what that means. Okay. Now I'm clearly being as respectful as possible, but you're not gonna sit up there and over talk me, and I can't speak. That's not gonna happen. All right. Now, when I say that, we do give too much credit to them. We give too much credit to them because when we talk about food stamps, Trump has been president before, and we still have food stamps. We still had all of the government assistance programs that existed under the Democrats still exist to various degrees under the Republicans. The thing is that there are good that the Democrats do, and I will give them credit, but there are also bad that the Democrats do. So we got to give them, if we're going to give them their W's, we got to give them their L's, just the same way we do with the Republicans. And then when you add things up and you compare things apples to apples, you will see that they're both as anti-black. They're both equally as anti-black. It's just that the Democrats just do more symbolic things to make it seem like they care. And this is what Malcolm X was talking about. They're more manipulative than the Republicans. But overall, their agenda as far as the community is not to see the prosperity of the black community, is not to see black excellence, not the return of Black Wall Street or anything like that. They put more symbolism out there, but as far as their legislation is concerned, they don't do anything. They don't fight for anything legislatively that's really going to advance the black community. You know, because when you talk about food stamp, let's be honest, when you talk about food stamps, black people are not the number one people to receive food stamps. Black people are not the number one people to receive funding. Black people are not, and this is statistics, all right? Black people are not the number one people to receive government funding, government food stamps, government this. That's actually white folk. And that's the truth about that. But you don't see them giving the Democrats the super credit for that. You see black people giving the Democrats credit for that as if they're doing it for us, but we not even the main ones benefiting from that. So that's why I'm saying it seems like we give them more leeway than what they really deserve.
Well, Afro, this is why I said that it's important to understand bipartisanship because, you've got the House and the Senate, and you've got a president. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, it's very rare in this situation, we have a House and Senate is Republican, right? Which is a Republican president.
Mhm.
But when you mention these things, we have to go to the next level because the people that are pushing this are not necessarily all Democrat or all Republican. Just because you have a Democratic president doesn't mean
Okay.
that who is snoring and needs
Whoever
a
just
CPAP.
came up and
Who is
started doing that, you got to get off. Okay.
so I guess
But
that's the
but
point where
here's
we
my
have to educate
brother. Here's
ourselves.
my argument. Here's my argument to say that, right. And that's true. You're 100% correct with that. That is true. That is not just the president. I'm talking about the overall agenda of the party. Now we do know there is a filibuster and they don't get everything they want all the time. We do understand that. But the overall agenda of the party, you know what I'm saying? They don't care. I don't think that any party, whether that's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, cares for the empowerment of the community, you know. And let's be honest, because there were times
No, no,
most
no.
hold on, brother. I didn't mean to call you brother, but there were times when Biden first got in, he did have the House and the Senate. Okay. And what did he do with the House and the Senate for black people? Nothing. When Obama first got in, he had the House and the Senate. What did he do with the House and the Senate for black people? Nothing. So we keep giving them excuses and we keep giving them like little escapes or justifications as to why they can't get anything done for us. But yet, regardless of them not having the House or the Senate, they can do stuff for a whole bunch of immigrants who just got here. They can do stuff for Ukraine, billions of dollars for Ukraine. I'm talking about if we look at the numbers, billions of dollars going any and everywhere else. But then when it comes to our community and what we're seeing in our community is, well, you got to have the House and the Senate and you got to have 67 votes and we only got 65 votes. There's always, we're moving the goalposts. You know what I'm saying? And we're not going to get anywhere if we keep doing that.
Well, here's a prime example.
I'm not trying to give too much credit to either one. It's what I said from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I said both of them they're making me stressed because it's hard to choose. It's hard to choose between the two because they're both racist group. But the point I was making was the fact that when you have a life and death situation, you have to do what is going to be the best for your people. And our people, a lot of us, or the majority of us, are on the bottom. And so then they're going to have different needs than other groups may need.
Okay.
And so we have to cater to the one that's going to meet the needs of the majority of us.
Okay. All right.
Can I comment
And I'm
now?
not here to debate that. I'm just here to say that I don't share that same opinion. I'm not here to say that that's a wrong opinion or a right opinion. I'm not here to tell people that. I just do believe that when you say like life or death and the Republicans or the Democrats come up and say that, I would like to ask you, because I don't want to make any assumptions on your stance. When you say that, can you give an example of like a life or death situation that the Democrats come in and save the day for?
Well, see, I guess you're looking at it from just a little bit different perspective than I am. I'm thinking about it in Congress. The Congress brings up the bills, right?
Okay.
Okay, so no Republican can boast that they made better bills to protect us or to cause us to have any kind of financial uplift, than the Democrats. The
Okay.
bills that they put on those tables, tend to be a little more for us than what Republicans would ever do.
Okay. Well,
That's what I'm talking about.
okay, and I can because I don't want this to be a one-on-one conversation. I want this to be a flowing conversation.
Hmm.
Do you have an example of like a bill you would like to use as an example?
Not at this moment, but
I have one.
there are
I have
tons
one.
of them.
Okay,
I
hold
have
on.
one.
Let her go. Okay. And like I said, I'm not here to change your mind, ma'am. I'm not here to change your mind or to disrespect you or debate you or anything like that. I'm just here to get your stance, and I want it to be abundantly clear so we don't going forward make any assumptions on what you believe or don't believe. All right.
But like I said, I'm going. Something else I really wanted to say. I think nowadays what we need is to realize that we need strategy for what it is we need to do next in order to protect ourselves from whatever enemy comes against us. I mean, we have known in the past that they are given to do foolish things like bombing us and starting fires and
Yeah, like
all
a hate
kinds
crime
of
bill.
things like that. We need to try to get strategies that will protect us as best we can.
Yeah, I
And,
agree with
and
that. I
until
definitely agree with that.
until
We were
after
saying,
everything is over,
yeah, we
hoping.
were saying something earlier. Um, I don't know if you were listening at the time, but we were saying something earlier about a anti-black hate crime bill. And
Hmm.
us being a protective status, us as
Yes,
Black Americans having a protective status, the same way you got, in Native American tribes and all of that stuff, that they
but
have a protective
that
status
doesn't
that we
seem
don't.
to be their goal on either
Because it
party.
already exists.
Yeah,
It
because
already
they
exists.
already have that. So we're trying to be all like, since we're the number one victims, like you were just saying, we would need something like that because we don't
Hmm.
have that, and we're the number one victim. So
No,
I
we
Yeah.
have that.
fully agree with you on that.
We have that. We have that.
No, we don't have that.
So
We do not
No, we
have
yeah,
that.
don't.
well, we
No, we
don't have
don't
it
have that.
specifically. Well,
Hold
no,
on,
They
hold
wait,
on.
they
wait a minute, wait a
We're
they
minute.
gonna
came
talk
up with
about.
something.
Hold
They
Right,
put
on.
right, right,
Wait a
right.
minute.
they put
So
something
One
up, but
minute.
it
1 minute. 1 minute. Are y'all speaking about the strange fruiting bill?
Yeah, that's what we should start
Okay.
doing right now. Oh man.
So when we say an anti-hate crime bill, um, it would be for things like police brutality, um, you know, stuff like that. Because anti strange fruiting bill isn't that just for strange fruiting us? What about the other things we, you know,
right.
incur?
So
Well, can I
each
comment
state.
now, Afro?
Hold on. Yeah, because Black Guys, you've been kind of let's let him go, and then we got other people. But Black Guys, yeah, just
My battery's about to die, so I'll just drop out. It's okay.
all right. Pretty. Thank you. Um, I forgot how to pronounce your name again, but go ahead.
Akko Ben.
Akko Ben.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something real quick, and then I'm gonna be through here. Um, we've made some very serious errors in judgment in this country, and the most serious, in my opinion, took place in 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas. Are you familiar with that?
Uh huh.
Okay, that was school desegregation, right? Where the black community went to the other community and handed our children over to them. Now, that was 70 years ago.
talking about busing.
No, I'm not talking about busing. Let me complete my sentence and I'll make it clear. Now, they've had our children for 70 years. They tell us to our face as we speak that after they've had our children for 12 years from K through 12th grade, the best that they can do with them is get them to between a fourth and a sixth grade reading level. This has been going on for about 50 years. This is what the black community has been sitting by and accepting.
Hmm.
If we continue to accept that from them, and let's be clear, black people don't teach black children because only 6% or less of public school teachers are black people
Hmm.
in the public schools in this country. So black people aren't teaching our children. Our children are being taught by other people. According to statistics, 80% of the people that teach our children are YT females. 15% they identify as Hispanic, and I would say that some of them are also YT. So we're talking about 90+% of the people that are teaching our children are them. There is no way that they are going to have our children prepared to compete against their children. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out, why are we still putting up with them destroying our community? And that is in fact what they're doing. When they do that to our children, they're doing it to us. And all of
Mm-hmm.
this other stuff that we're talking about, Democrat, Republican, etc., when that's happening to our children, why is it that other things have priority over that?
Well, it's not that it has priority, but it's the fact that it's kind of not not the topic. It's an important topic. It's an important topic, but when we have that conversation, and I did bring up schooling. When we have that conversation, this is why we need to understand that kind of we need to, as a community, we need to implement our own schooling system the same way
Mm-hmm.
other communities implement their own schooling system outside of the state funded public schools or state or city funded public schools.
Yeah.
I do agree with that, but I do want to stay on topic. I do want to stay on topic, even though I fully agree with the fact that we do need to start teaching our own children. Even Malcolm X was talking about that. But I want to get to some of the other speakers because we're not going to be here all night. It's already late. So let me get to Xandor.
Uh, Hi, thank you for having me up here. Hello, panel. How is everybody doing? Um,
Hello.
Good, how are you?
I'm going to answer the question first. Who's worse for Black people, Democrats or Republicans? Um, as for it, between the choice of them, I believe the Republicans are worse for Black people. This has always been a republic. First of all, let me just say that you have to remember from the beginning, none of this was for us. That's when the Constitution was signed, all that. None of that was signed for us
That's right.
because we were thought of as less than. We wasn't even thought of as people or equals or none of that. So none of this has been for us. And there's always been a Republican, the start of the government system has always been Republican. And as far as I'm concerned, in the back of their minds, it'll always be that way, that we are second class citizens. Now, Democrats, listen. I do believe Democrats have more of our interests at heart because if Democrats are like the white people who said, "Well, listen, let's end slavery," you know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's
Yeah,
why I
they
say
had some. That's right.
there are some good white people and there's some bad white people. But
That's right.
basically, that's how it goes, and that's how I look at the Democrats as
In
they're
both
trying to do
parties.
their best. They're trying to do their best to implement as much equal rights as they can. However, they are at a standstill. I don't care whether they hold the House or not. Republicans still have most of the power, and
Mm-hmm.
probably always will for a while. And that's just the way it is. I think we as people, we have to invest in who has our best interests at heart. Now, I'm not always saying that all Democrats have our best interests at heart.
Mhm.
However, if you find a Republican that does have your best interests at heart, then vote for that person. You
Right.
know,
So
but
you're speaking about the
it,
party.
you-
Yeah, the
so
party. Okay.
but I do believe, but I do believe Republican Democrats have a little more compassion for the
Mm-hmm.
black race than
Yeah.
Republicans do.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you say they have our best interest at heart and things like that,
More
what,
numbers
first off,
of them.
let's be abundantly clear. And
Yes,
I want the audience to know there's a lot of people listening. I want the audience to know that remember the guy who came up and said I voted for Trump, and then I started asking him questions like, okay, well,
yes,
why
sir.
did you vote for
Yes,
Trump?
sir.
You know what
Yes,
I'm
sir.
saying? So when I ask questions, it's not because I agree or disagree. I just want things to be clear because too often we have these conversations like they're fighting for our rights and then we don't specify what rights they're fighting for. No, they're taking our rights away. We don't specify what rights they're taking away. And we're having this conversation and nobody's stance is really abundantly clear. So in order for us to have any bit of a respectful and progressive conversation, our stance is going to have to be clear. So when you say they have our best interest at heart, can you specify? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Like, what do you think?
You know what? Now
The
listen.
Republicans
I'm gonna be honest. And let me be straight up honest. I'm no legal eagle or political eagle,
Mhm.
but I just think that there are. I think Democrats. Um, how do I say this? I don't know. I just think Democrats look at our plight and what we've been through more than Republicans do. That's I can't listen. The whole to be honest with you, the whole engine sucks. The whole engine sucks, really. Democrat
Absolutely.
and Republican, it sucks. However, I do believe that the Democratic Party was created because Republicans will definitely still have their foot more on our neck than not.
And that's because a lot of the racist ones, when we did start filling up the seats with blacks, a lot of the racist ones ran over to the Republican side.
Well, okay. Well, I'm a little confused because you were saying that there were racists on both sides.
There are.
So they didn't have to run.
So if
Yeah.
I
there are
But a
racists on
lot,
both
I said
sides,
a
why
lot of
would
them.
they
I
stay in
didn't
there?
say all of them. I said a lot of them did go over to the Republican side.
If you're talking about the great switch, there were only a handful of people that made that.
What are you talking about?
What you were just talking about, you said a lot of them, they call that the great switch. There were only a handful of people that went over to the Republican Party. And
That's because it was the ideology. It was the ideology.
that the Democrats
Hold on, before
What
we
is
go,
a handful?
hold
the
on,
What is
everybody,
a
Democrats,
hold on,
handful?
everybody. Let's ooh.
okay,
See,
wait a minute. Can
this
I
is
give
what
one example?
you said the
this is why you
Democrats wanted to
shouldn't
end
be.
slavery. The Democrats were the Confederates.
Hold on. Xandor, are you finished?
Yeah, I
Because
just want to give one.
I
I
don't
just
want
give
to,
one. I just want
start
to give.
interjecting or whatever the case
Okay,
is.
I just want to give one example of what I'm talking about as far as Democrats and Republicans. When
Okay.
Obama got into office, I remember specifically Mitch McConnell saying, "Listen, we're not going to approve anything that you try to bring to us."
Okay.
All
Mm-hmm.
right, and that's the example I'm going to use.
Well, that's something, and I think that's a fair example. I do want to also add that that is something that all parties do. You know,
No.
if no, hold on, because if the Republican is the president, if the Republican is the president, and the Democrats are the Congress, they're not trying to work with each other. We have this thing of the Republicans don't want to work with the Democrats. The Democrats and the Republicans don't want to work with each other at all. You know,
That
they
depends
try to
on
block every single
when.
bill. They try to block every single law. They try to block all the legislation. So that happens on both sides. You know, on both sides, they're always trying to take each other down. You know,
And when
but
Obama
how would you
first got
say?
there,
But
I don't.
hold on. But my thing is because the Republicans don't want to work. Let's say the Republicans didn't want to work with Obama, and they were being very unfair to Obama.
Yes, they did.
I can give you that. But how does that mean that the Democrats favor black people more? How does that translate to that?
Because we can feel
You know what?
safer there.
Hold on, man. Let's let him answer the question.
Well, you know what? You can never know, because if he presented bills that they slammed down before it even got started, we even got a wind of it, how do we know that he wasn't trying to help blacks?
Okay, well, we can't make any assumptions. We can't make any assumptions. Did he talk about any bills that were shut down?
we do know this: when his first term, the Democrats control both houses.
Yeah, that's what we do know. You know, so let's not make any assumption because we've been doing this a little bit too much, and I don't want us to do that with Obama or with Trump, with the Democrats or with the Republicans. Let's not make the assumption that we want that they're going to do something, but they couldn't do it. If they didn't say, I'm trying to do something, and we see them try to do it and they got blocked, we shouldn't make the assumption that they actually tried to do it.
Granted.
You know what I'm saying? Because there were things that he tried to do that got blocked, but we
Yeah.
know he actually tried. Let's
Yes.
just not assume that he was trying to look out for us, but he couldn't do it. If he was trying and he got blocked, I would give it to him. But we can't just sit up there and say, "Well, I think he's trying." No, no, let's not. No.
Okay. All right. I'll listen. I'll grant you 100%. I'll go with that.
And he
Okay.
didn't need Republican support his first term, at least the
He
first
didn't.
2 years. He didn't need that support at all. And he still did nothing for black people
He
except
spent
talk
most of
down
his
to them.
What,
political,
but
spent
let me
most of
ask
his
you something.
political
Let's
capital.
continue. Hold on. Let's continue. Let's add. Let's allow other people to
Okay.
speak on and everything like that. Let's allow other people to speak on the subject. All right. But I'm gonna give you my stance on Obama and a lot of people. And trust me, I remember when Obama first got elected. I remember when he first got elected. I wasn't old enough to vote for him. Even the second time, I wasn't old enough to vote for him. But I'm thinking that, oh, Obama about to hook us up. And then when he first got in, it's like, well, it takes time for things to change. It takes time. And then 4 years go by, and then people want to vote for him again. Like, come on, we got to vote for him again. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I guess. Now, I couldn't vote for him. But I was seeing how constantly we were making excuses after excuses as to why, for our community in particular, we got neglected. And we were creating excuses on his behalf, excuses he wasn't even making. We were making excuses on his behalf as to why
Uh-uh.
we were getting neglected, but nobody else was getting neglected. And I
Oh
was just kind of
no, no,
seeing that like,
you really way
I
off.
don't think we should be doing that no more. And I'm
Mm-mm.
still seeing a lot of people make excuses that Obama himself has never made. Obama has never said this. He's not been president for almost a decade. Obama has never came out and said, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this, but they stopped it. Obama has never made any excuse as to why he didn't do anything. He's never said, I tried to do something, but they stopped it. So if he's never said that, it would be incorrect for us to say that he tried to do something when he's never admitted he's tried to do that.
But he spent
Forgive
most
me,
of his
but it
political.
seems to me
But
that you need to go back and look at some of those congressional meetings and how they were treating him and what.
but here's the
I
thing.
mean, because
I
you
agree,
lose a
ma'am.
lot of flavor like that.
I
I mean,
agree that
you.
there was a lot of, maybe there was a condescension, it was a lot of disrespect. But as
I
far
mean,
as Obama's
way
agenda,
more than
as far as, hold
usual.
on, but we're not going to sit up here and say because Obama was disrespected, he gets a pass for ignoring us because we
No,
were his
no,
main
we're
support.
not. But that's not what
We were
I'm
his main.
saying.
I'm saying, but we were his main support going in. What is his black agenda? What was his black
No,
agenda? His whole
I'm not
both terms.
defending him on those
If I could,
issues.
if I could
Hold
say
on, but
something.
okay, let's let Logic. What do you have to say, sis? What do you have to say?
Well, he spent most of his political capital on trying to get the Affordable Care Act passed.
Yeah,
And by the time he was able to get it passed, it was
right.
into his second term, and in
That's
which he
right.
lost the House and the Senate. Um, and we do know that that's why he spoke about there's no blue America or red America. It's just America, because you cannot make policy or laws that are directed towards one race. That's why we have most
Here's the
of these
thing,
bills.
but you
It's
can
not
hold on,
constitutional.
ma'am. That's
But
that's a
nobody
little.
was
That's a
asking
little.
him to do for one race.
Hold on,
So
no,
I
that's
didn't
a little.
understand
That's a
why
little.
he even
Hold
said
on, man.
anything like
Come
that.
on, y'all, because that's a little disingenuous thing. That's disingenuous, because the thing is that the Native Americans, they definitely get something specific that nobody else gets to touch. There's Asians who get something specific.
Hate
So
bill.
there's different lineages and communities that do get things specific. So let's be genuine with that.
You are correct. But most of the time it has to do with an affiliation of the issue there at hand. So like when they
Mm-hmm.
passed the Asian bill,
No,
when they
no,
passed the Asian
not with
bill,
the
yes,
Native
Mm-hmm.
Americans.
they were
But
being
continue.
harmed at a great rate. And that's why
Man,
they
you
were able to
serious?
pass that.
When hold on. Let's let her finish. Let's let her finish.
And that's why they were able to pass that. But given bills, I do agree we do not have an anti-hate bill for us, the people that look like me. Um, when they did try to pass the John Lewis, it passed in the House and it was denied in the Senate by a 60 vote of filibuster by Republicans who are always opposition to anything that makes black people fair weather, or do better or have upward mobility. Um, And we do know, as the person spoke about, them saying that they were going to make Mitch McConnell said that he was going to make Obama a one-time president, that he wasn't able to get any more bills passed, but he did put it in the First Step Act, which was similar to what Trump did, where he tried to reduce recidivism within our community, and he also commuted the second number of prisoners versus his other peers in with who held the presidency.
You know, you said something that was very disrespectful.
Hold on. Before we say
Let me
that,
let me say this real quick, bro.
hold on,
Oh, she said something about the Asian.
before we go there, let me say this real quick. Um, if
She
we
just
take,
lacks understanding.
who lacks understanding?
She lacks understanding about what she said about that the Chinese or
She said
No,
Asian.
that
the
is true.
Asian. I
No,
mean
here's the
Asian.
thing.
I will
When
show
we
you
talk
proof.
about, and my thing is, when we talk about these things, when we talk about the Affordable Care Act and all that stuff. Because let's be honest, there's a mixed opinions about the Affordable Care Act. There's some black people who say, because the Affordable Care Act for black people in the middle class does not look the same or feel the same as the Affordable Care Act in black people with who are suffering in poverty. But if we let's say the Affordable Care Act is a universally beneficial thing for everybody as the country universally, all right, we can't act as if that is a black agenda. Okay, I'm talking about a specific black agenda, because the thing is that when I say Obama did not do anything and look out for the black community, we say, oh yes he did, because he did this for the country, and because we're in the country he looked out for black people. If we use that logic, then we have to say that every single president has done something for black people. But we don't want to say every single president has done something for black people. We want to lower the standard and lower the bar when it comes to Obama, and I think that we are
No,
not
we.
going to make any. Hold
Do
on,
you,
hold on.
Let me respond
I
to
don't
that.
know who he's talking to because we don't
Hold
think
on.
that.
Stop. Because there were specific things that Obama could have done that he did not do. Obama did not advocate for. Obama
That's
did
right.
not do. So let's be honest. When we give Obama a lot of credit for general things that benefited everybody, and we make it seem like this was specifically for us, when everybody got a slice of the pie, really a bigger slice than we did.
That's
Everybody
right.
got this slice of the pie, and we were making it seem like, oh, this is our pie. No, it's not our pie. But not only did we get the big general slice of the pie, Obama's administration also gave extra pies to different communities. That's my thing. If we want to make the excuse, oh, he didn't have the House, he didn't have the Senate, they blocked this bill, but we see other communities get extra pies that we didn't get. And we keep trying to come up with some type of excuse as to why we couldn't get what everybody else got.
Because
We're not
McConnell,
going to
I mean,
advance
McConnell
as
was
a, hold
there.
on, man.
He was.
Hold on. We're not going to advance as a community if we keep trying to justify and rationalize why we are getting less than everybody else. If we keep making an excuse for our elected officials who are leapfrogging us or who are skipping us, and we keep making excuses for it, we're not going to progress.
Now,
Can I
I agree with
interrupt
that,
you?
but
What she
May I
said
ask you a
regarding
question?
the
but you got
Oh,
to
Asian hate
okay.
bill.
understand.
When she
Hi.
said that, she
Hold
said
on.
something about the
Let's let
Asian.
hold on. After you go, then we'll let Kayla go because she hasn't spoken yet.
Okay, she said something about the Asian hate bill, and she said that they got that bill because they were being harmed. We have been through some of the most barbaric
I
treatment
mean, that's the
anywhere
truth.
in this country, and for her to say they got a special bill because they were being harmed and they have did unmentionable things to us, for her to say that, I find that just disgusting.
Hmm.
But you see,
Why I ask for everybody's
like I say,
ethnicity.
let's keep it real.
Hold on, everybody.
All right.
BX, what were you saying?
I was saying that's why sometimes it's important to get their ethnicity. Maybe it's age. Maybe she's like, what I call all inclusive. Or maybe she's just not Black American and can't relate to the things that we went through in this country. Because you could be Black in America but not be Black American. So there's a way that people answer that alert us to some things, and Echo been caught onto it. So
I just
I
think
don't know.
she lacked on a being filled in.
I
It's
understand.
like she
I'm
didn't
definitely
know
pro
Well,
black.
something.
I'm
okay,
definitely pro
before
black.
before we go,
Okay,
logic.
pro-Black may not be
What is
Black
your
American.
ethnicity? Just go. Are you Black American? Are you is your lineage from someplace else?
No, no, I'm black. I'm Black American.
So your lineage is a descendant of American slaves.
Yes, Black and Native American. Yes.
Native American.
Okay, can I speak?
Hold
Hey, how
on,
y'all
let's let
doing? I'm
Caleb.
Kayla.
One minute, Kayla. 1 minute. I'm trying to figure out something.
Okay, go ahead.
So you're biracial then?
My mom, yeah.
Your mom is Native
Okay.
American. She's a part of a tribe or something.
Yeah, and she's black too though.
Hold on.
She's a black.
She has a
What?
clan.
I'm sorry.
She has a clan. Like, what tribe is she from?
I don't know. I'm adopted.
You're okay. So
So
your
you
adopted mom, your biological mom, or your adopted mom is
My
Native.
biological mom.
Your biological. Okay, what are
Yes,
your
but I
adopted
was raised. My adopted parents are both black.
Black American?
Yes.
But you know that your biological mom is a Black Native,
Yes.
and your biological father is
Black.
a black
Black
uh,
American. Yes.
FBA Black,
Yes.
and you were raised by two FBA parents.
Yes.
Okay.
In the South or in the
Where
North?
what state
I'm
do you
from
live in?
Memphis. I'm from
Memphis.
Memphis, but
Okay.
I was raised in Illinois. I live in the suburbs outside of Chicago, in Naperville.
Okay. I have family who used to live in Naperville. It's a good. It sounds a little. It's about like an hour and a half away from Chicago.
Yeah.
Nice. It's nice, quiet. I like it. All right. All right then.
I think she just didn't get the news about the numbers. So regarding the I want to say the right name for them. Um, Asian.
think she just fed
Okay.
into the media hype, right? Because when all the Asian stuff kicked off, it was a white tea man who unalived them in a bathhouse, correct? And
No,
then
there were
from
several
there,
during
it
the
kind of
pandemic.
right. I'm
There were
getting
several
there.
during the
I'm
pandemic.
getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Right. So I agree with Akobin, right? But so some of these groups have what I call the machine behind them, right? And what that machine does is it catapults them and spotlights them as if it's horrible what happened to them, but at the same time, our um unalivings, our harm, stuff like that is kind of diminished and made to be our fault. But we're
Mm-hmm.
made to, respect everybody else's atrocities. Sort of like
Mm-hmm.
never forget 9/11, but get over slavery. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you say certain things about the Asian hate, right? I'm
Yes.
trying to word this without being, so when you bring that up, it sort of diminishes what we've been going through, depending on how you say it. The way you said it raised alarm. And it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
me saying it, because I don't even know if Akko been identified as FBA, but he caught on to it. So some things are kind of insensitive because you are on a Black American platform, more specifically a foundational Black American platform, and we've been harmed here since God,
Mm-hmm.
before
I
the country was
apologize
America.
if I said it with
Right.
if you think I said it with malice. No, no, I did not mean it with malice.
No, we
I
don't
also
think that.
stated that there was anti-crimes bill put up and the John Lewis bill put up that Republicans show opposition for. And yes, I do know that we have not gotten an anti-hate bill for us, and I think it's pathetic. I'm not negating the fact. Chattel slavery was the worst slavery for anybody to compare anything to it. It's uncomparable. I just know that America, I'm not saying the Democratic or the Republican they're the same coin. They're two sides of the same coin. I just feel like Democrats they do look out more. They do provide a safety net for the poor. I feel like policies that are being implemented by
Well, we're not.
Republicans, such as these tax cuts, we know that we don't even make up because it's the one percenters, right? So that's 99% of white people.
Well, let's keep this. We're not advocating for the poor. I'm not. We're advocating for black people. So when we
But
talk
we know
about,
that we fit
I have
that.
to go.
I was saying
I have to
this
go.
earlier in the live. This was way earlier, right in the beginning. When we use these inclusive terms like, yeah, and they fight for people of color, or they fight for minorities, or they fight for the poor, that includes a lot of other people. And then we can get filtered down to the bottom of that list. So let's just talk about black be black. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I have to go. I appreciate you having me up here. Thank you. I followed you.
Thank you.
Great conversation. I always like checks and balances, and so I really appreciate your side and what you're bringing up because you have to take a look at that as far as being a black person in America. But I just want everybody to remember that nothing in this country was ever really created for us to prosper on.
All right.
That's
Well,
right.
thank you for your opinion and thank you for joining the conversation.
All
But
right.
let's get to
Thank you.
Kayla. Kayla, you've been
All
waiting
right.
patiently. Thank you, Kayla.
Of course. How y'all doing? So I'm a black teacher in a black community. I'm from the South, from Mississippi. So I just want to go back to what you all said about Barack Obama and how he did not do anything for the black community. I do want to say this. Incorrect. So he did award 1.2 billion to black farmers. He also expanded funding for HBCUs, which I went to HBCUs for about 10 years. He also signed the Fair Sentencing Act, which affected black people to be, I'm sorry, like, so for crack users, to make sure that they got
You can't
correct
say that. You can't
sentences.
say that word on the
I'm
on.
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Okay.
For those type of users. So I do want to just make sure that, when we say that Obama didn't do anything for black people, he actually did. And it, you know, yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. And then
Well.
just to answer the prompt,
Mhm,
I do think Republicans are worse for black people.
mhm.
I voted Democratic, and I have a couple of reasons why. And I can understand why people may not have wanted to vote for Kamala, because of some of the things that she may have done during her campaign. I understand that everybody does not agree with that. But when it comes to policies, I will always vote Democratic, depending on the candidate. Let me say that, because it's just more so, it helps not just our community, because America is not just made for black people. It's not just a community of black people in America. Um, it's for more so like those marginalized communities, people of color, black people, Hispanic people, all of those type of people. So that's all I had to say.
How long have you been here? Because he stated that those other groups who aren't black
I heard
are
that.
getting things specifically for
I
them.
heard
And what
that.
was the first thing you said when you started talking
I
about
said
Obama?
that
What did he do? The first thing you mentioned.
I said that he awarded black farmers 1.2 billion.
So then why did they have to sue recently? Correct?
Obama
What
hasn't been
happened with that?
president for about 10 years now.
I understand that. I understand that he awarded that, but I'm wondering what happened between the time he awarded it, got out of office, to the point that they had to sue recently to get that. Like,
Well,
how
Because
was
Trump
that written
Trump
out?
came in between there,
and
so
I was just going to say,
Okay.
yeah, Trump
Yes.
came in and undid a lot of his policies. An
Okay.
example would be like one of the ones with expanding the funding for HBCUs. Trump came in and undid that policy. That was one of the policies that he signed an executive order to undo. So I just want to make sure that when we do
Right.
state,
And didn't he fund? But then didn't Trump fund the HBCUs too?
yeah, he did. But
he
what happened
did.
with the farmers was that
Okay.
when he implemented the
Thank you.
tariffs,
Mhm.
there was a tariff war which hurt all the farmers. He did
Uh-huh.
reward the white farmers under his administration and did not reward the black ones, and in which Biden
Correct.
just recently gave them their money.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's not give Biden too much credit with that, because they
No,
had
no, no,
no,
no,
no,
no.
we not, no, we not, because
We give him
Biden
credit,
didn't do
full
that. That
credit
was
for
the
what he
Supreme
did.
Court. No, we're not
Hold
gonna do
on,
that
I want
because
to
that
hear
was the
his reason
Supreme
too, just
Court.
like I heard theirs.
That was the Supreme Court, and they had to sue Biden's entire administration. Biden wasn't looking out for no black farmers. We ain't gonna see, and this is the thing that what happens. Anything progressive that happens under the Democratic Party, we give them all of the credit for. You know what
Well,
I'm
give
saying?
us
And
the
anything
story then.
destructive, it was not. Biden wasn't like, you know what? I'm gonna look out for black farmers. That's not what Biden was on. Okay. So and the black farmers are not the only ones who got stuff. It was farmers of color. It was not specifically black farmers. Okay, even
Now
though
that
they were
of
the
color
ones
hurts you.
who were the spearheaders of the lawsuit, what the when it came to the settlement, farmers of colors, that's who got it. Okay, so let's be clear with that. You know, and one of the things you also said is like things that affected black people. I'm not talking about doing certain things and then black people having an effect on those things. Because if you keep that logic, everything affects black people. And anything productive affects black people. I'm talking about this is what black people need, so I'm going to specifically do this for black people. The same way Obama did when it came to the Dreamers and when he came to the other communities and stuff like that. You're saying this is a specific need of this community, and I'm going to do this to address a specific need of this community. I'm not talking about I'm going to do some blanket race blind or color blind policy, but you guys get to apply to it too. You know what I'm saying?
My
So
question is
I'm just saying that that is the logic and the standard that we should have, whether they're Democrat or Republican. Because there's
Mm-hmm.
some people who are all like, well, Trump did the First Step Act. The First Step Act is not a black specific thing. So we can't say Trump was looking out for black people with the First Step Act because that's not a black specific thing. Even though it
Mm-hmm.
affected black people, it wasn't a black specific policy. So he
Okay.
shouldn't get the brownie points from black people for that. So I'm keeping the same logic. I'm keeping the same energy. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? I just feel like if we as the black community are going to progress, we have to have a certain bar that can't be moved. It just seems like we have a very strict bar and it's fair when it comes to the Republicans. Our bar is right here, but then we kind of lower the bar when it comes to the Democratic Party. And we're not going to get anywhere if we keep lowering the bar.
No, I totally agree with you. But those white farmers also sued for reverse discrimination when they were going to pay them, and they
I mean,
got paid.
I'm not saying, yeah, we know everything we gonna get. There's always gonna be the opposition from them. I'm talking about the politics of it.
Yeah, but that's what I was trying to explain when I say that they can't make specific policy for black people because they always gonna come sue. Just like all these ethnicities that came into the country under the 14th and 15th Amendment that was made for by our forefathers for us, and they take the advantage of it. Um, but there's really nothing you could do about it because they can't specifically make it and say that
But
it's for
here,
us.
what you can do, what can be done, is specific lineage-based policies can be made. Lineage-based policies can be made, and it's done to all these other communities. And the
Could you give an
14th Amendment,
example
the
of that?
14th
Yeah, I was
Amendment.
just going to say.
If
Can you
you
just
want an
like
example, if you
explain what
want
you
an
One at a
mean?
example,
time.
you
One
want
at
an
a time.
example, I will bring up the Native American community that gets stuff from the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats and the Republicans look out for them and they give them stuff. They give them monetary benefits and stuff like that. I can also look out for the Asian community. I will also mention the Asian community. We can also say that there were specific set asides and things like that allocated to the alphabet community. We can say that there are specific set asides and benefits specifically for the immigrant community. So these are specific communities that they said, okay, you are going through a specific issue, and I'm going to put this specific policy out for you. It's for you, not for everybody, for you. You can also bring up the small hat community. There are specific policies specifically for them. It's just when it comes to us, like, oh, we can't do nothing specific. So we got to keep the same energy.
What would that look like
The
for
14th Amendment
black
is
people?
specific to the black community. The
What
14th
exactly what
Amendment.
are you like expecting? What would that look like for the black community? Because again, like for the Native American community, I can understand that they were the first people on this land. The Europeans came and took their land as they took us from Africa and brought us here.
Okay,
So
but
what exactly would that look like for black people?
what that would look like a
Anti-hate crime bill. Let's
yeah, that
not
would look
bring
like
up
an anti-hate crime
reparations
bill.
again.
That would look like
Yeah.
lineage-based policies based off of specific lineage. Like for instance, what California was doing before they blocked it, having a Freedmen's Bureau. I think it was called a bureau. I believe it was what they were doing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Where you would go and you would qualify. You would go and you would have your lineage qualified and double checked, and there could be specific programs that you can apply to based off your lineage. You know,
Exactly.
just the same way dreamers, there are specific programs and set asides for dreamers and DACA and all of that stuff based off their immigrant status. So there should be specific programs for us based off of our lineage status.
The 14th
We
Amendment
can't say they can't do it because they do it for dreamers and they do it for DACA.
the 14th Amendment is specific to black people. No other
Right,
But
people.
like Americans, children of
like in the case of the
slaves.
birthright
They've
citizenship.
been using it
Honey,
for everybody.
what
Okay.
was
Yeah.
that? The 14th Amendment is specific to black people, the descendants of African slaves. Period.
How does it read?
But everybody leech off of it.
It was originally intended. You can say it was intended for us, but it does apply legally to other groups of people.
No, it doesn't. You better read it again.
I know what it is. It
Hold
does.
on,
Utilize,
Well, you better
utilize it.
read it
It's
one
again.
minute,
Yeah,
one
utilized.
minute,
read
one
off of
If
it.
you're
minute, one
talking,
minute,
if you're
one
talking
at a
about, if you're
time.
talking about
One
the
at a
case of
time. I go, Ben.
1898 about the
Right.
Chinese
Okay.
person that they said was granted birthright citizenship, if
The
you're
wrong
talking about him,
Kim.
it was
Wrong Kim.
specific
Okay.
to him only. Read it again.
Dude,
Hold
I'm
on, hold on.
saying,
Let me
as
talk.
far as the
I can.
Constitution, we were the people who are in mind when the 14th Amendment, because there wouldn't have been a 14th Amendment
Well, I
without
agree
us.
with that.
If it
We
wasn't for
were.
us.
But when you say the
Right.
14th Amendment is a specific law only to us, that is legally not the case. The Supreme Court has already ruled that that's
No,
not true.
well, tell me why it's not specifically to us, because I know why it is.
Dude, we're not even having this
We did
conversation.
that.
This is
Okay.
off topic.
Okay,
I have
well,
a
you said you knew,
question.
so
They
I
don't really
want to go
mention
around.
black. They don't mention black in the Constitution. Even in the amendments, they say citizens.
So then let me ask you a question, Apple, because this has been on my mind with Trump declaring who it was for, children of slaves, right? Which would mean us, right?
That's
Me,
Uh-huh.
correct.
you, and every other foundational Black American. So, um, when I was in college, I read that the Native Americans weren't citizens, and when they had finally gained citizenship, and I was amazed by it because I said, wait a minute. All this time, I thought they were automatically citizens, but they have their own citizenship date, right? Which I believe is 1924. Then we could go to the Puerto Ricans, and they became, in the Virgin Islands too, if you want to put them in there, they became citizens when they became a territory, which is a whole different other date. So my whole point is this. Without even going to say who the 14th Amendment is for, why aren't people fighting for their own citizenship dates and everybody's blurring the lines? Everybody's jumping in on the tail, our
Mm-hmm.
coattails.
That's right.
So that I had that question that I wanted to put out
I
there
fully
since we
agree
was
with
on
that.
that
I fully
topic.
agree. That
Right.
is something that everybody is kind of piggybacking. Everybody's been kind of
Mm-hmm.
leeching off of us when it came
Mm-hmm.
to the 14th Amendment, which was based off of us. We are the
Mm-hmm.
basis and the foundation of the 14th Amendment. Had it
Mm-hmm.
not been for us, there would not have been a 14th,
Been
a
one.
13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. All of these amendments
Right.
are based off of us. And everybody else is coming in, they kind of eating off our plate. Everybody else
That's
is
right.
coming in there, they're reaping the benefits of really our amendments.
And that's
And
Mm-hmm.
I'll go as
why
far to
Trump
say,
said what he said. He said that it was written specifically for us because he knows, in fact, that it doesn't include people who move here from another country and have a child. Then that child has birthright citizenship. He says that's
Right.
not the
It's been
case
a
because
beauty.
it is not.
Yeah,
Right.
but
well,
what you
I
said
would
So here's
before is
off,
that it
off the
only
host and
applies to
say
us.
that Democrats are the one who's bastardized the
Yeah,
14th Amendment.
Yeah, but okay. We did this last time, and I'm not gonna do this to my sister again. Miss Big Red hasn't spoken yet.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Red.
Hi, I was just
Hi.
listening. So, just to answer the question, who's worse for Black people, Democrats or Republicans? And they're both. I mean, there is no, leaning one toward the other. I'm sick and tired of,
Hmm.
people, saying,
Hold on,
we
let
have
her
to pick.
go. You can't
We
be.
have to pick the lesser of two evils, and that kind of crap. This is because of, I think about all the time what Malcolm X said about, the analogy that he made between the wolf and the fox. And if you stop right there, there have been too many receipts showing that the Republicans and the Democrats are no different. Somebody said it earlier, they're two sides of one coin. You cannot tell me that the Democrats have had all this time to do something for Black people. And like you were saying, Afro, as far as like lineage based programs and stuff, if you go, I used to look at look up different grants and things. If you look at that, there's all kinds of grants for, indigenous or people from Alaska with one Alaskan parent and one Native American parent. I mean, it gets so specific. Nothing for us. And if you think about it along the lines of, and I heard somebody say this earlier, Black people have been on the bottom. We have been on the bottom for a long time. And what really pisses me off is that everybody is okay with that. And you have to think about the fact that outside of the, Native Americans, our own government has screwed us. Our own government has done that. So we are, I mean, I hate to say the word, but we are entitled to something, you know? So it's just, to me, it's just become, this thing where people just accept the fact, or they're okay with the fact that Black people are just supposed to be on the bottom. And we let these so-called politicians off the hook all the time. Don't tell me there's nothing specific they can't do for Black people, because just to give you a small example, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I remember several years ago they were debating back and forth about Charlotte getting a light rail system. They kept voting it down. It was too expensive. The taxpayers didn't want to pay for it, and blah blah blah. So this went on for years. So all of a sudden, when I believe it was Obama's, it might have been his second term, but anyway, he came to Charlotte and he tapped our mayor, who was Anthony Fox at the time, to be, I believe, the transportation secretary or something. Well, all of a sudden, Charlotte got all this money for the light rail system. It cost taxpayers nothing, not locally. But it was just, to me, that just says they do what they want to do. And I think the fact of it comes down to we don't have power. You guys were talking about the Asians and how they got what they got, because somebody said because they had so much going against them. Well, they can't compare to us. I mean, if you want to play victim Olympics, they couldn't even compare. The way that they got what they got is because they had a country like China behind them. They had money, they had power. That's how they got what they got. But the fact that I guess we're seeing in the light that we don't have that, we don't have these lobbyists working on our behalf, we get nothing. We get nothing. So I feel like for the Democrats, because we Black people have supported them for so long, like, damn, I mean, excuse me, you could, like give us something symbolic, something. We've got nothing. And don't tell me they have not had the time to do it.
My thing before we continue with the conversation, because we do have Michael is up here and he hasn't spoken yet. My thing is this, and like I keep saying, anytime somebody says something negative about the Republicans, I'm not here to defend Trump. I'm not here to defend the Republicans. I'm not here to defend Obama, Harris, Biden. I'm not here to defend the Democrats. But my thing is when we say that Black people have been neglected and black people have been mistreated by the Republicans, we can all, as a collective, we can all agree with that. But then when we say, well, black people have been neglected and mistreated by the Democrats, we say, yeah, we have, but
But
you know what I'm saying? Is yeah, we have, but there's always for whatever is this indoctrination of for whatever reason we will admit that both of these parties are bad, but we're giving this party way more leeway. We're
right,
giving this party a little life jacket, even
they
though
don't
both we'll
deserve
say
it.
we're ignored and we're abused and we're mistreated and we're neglected by both of these parties, but one of them gets a pass. Like why do we cannot logically expect to progress as a community if we keep doing that? If we keep saying the when it comes to the Democratic leadership, and in the last 15 years, the Democrats have had more power than the Republicans had. Okay, because just because when Trump was in office, the Democrats also did have Congress. You know what I'm saying? So Obama was president for 2 terms, then Trump, then Biden. Okay, so
They
in the
had
last
time.
15 years, in the last what almost 20 years, 2/3 in the last 20 years. Actually, let me think about this. In the last 20 years, you can make the argument that most of them have been under a Democratic rule.
Right,
My thing is that when we look at what we get and we see that we're at the bottom and we get neglected and we see that all of these other communities who do not deserve what we deserve, who have not gone through what we've gone through, when
right,
they get more than what we get, why are we making excuses for us not getting what we deserve? We don't give any type of leeway, any type of pass, any type of exception, any type of benefit of the doubt when it comes to the Republicans, nor should we. But when it comes to the Democrats, there's just so much grace and
right.
mercy
No,
and leeway that we give them. And we keep trying to tell ourselves, okay, if we gonna keep supporting them, we gotta give them another chance. Well, we gotta understand they can't do everything. There we have been too merciful, too graceful. We have done that for way too long. We're repeating the same mistake again and again and again.
I agree, but what do you think we mean when we say we can't let them do that?
What do you mean? We
Also,
can't let them do
can
that?
I interject, Miss Big Red? I just want to just a quick thing. You did say that there aren't any grants or anything for African American people. I want to say that's not true because there are,
No, no,
especially
I
for
think she's talking about specific lineage-based
that's
grants.
what I'm
Only
talking
people
lineage.
who
about.
look
Okay,
like you.
okay,
Right. And I said that. I
okay.
said lineage based. So no, I agree. I mean, I know that there are, we've got, certain grants here and there for people to go to school and, certain things like that. No, but check out, and I cannot remember the name of the website, but if you go on, because you used to have to go to the library and there were these big books, but they were basically all the grants and stuff like that were lineage based,
Hmm.
every single one of them. So if you go and look up that, like I said, I mean, they are specific. Like if you live in a certain state and you belong to a certain group, like I said, if you have one parent who's from Alaska and one parent who's Native American, identifies as Native American, you qualify for all kinds of stuff. You'd be shocked, but nothing for us. That's what I'm saying. The Democrats have had way, 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 way long enough to do something. Nobody, if you're not sick, you don't need a doctor. Well, us as a black community, we're sick. I've often heard about when, they say when white tea community has a cold, black America has the flu. Well, come on, something. Can we get something? And like
Let's
I
use
said, I
this
go back to
analogy.
the fact that our suffering came from our own
It,
government.
it, it,
Like
it
if
did, and they're paying everybody else based off of that.
right,
Everybody else is getting paid based off of our suffering. Let's use this analogy. For people who are like, well, why don't you go with the Republicans? What are the Republicans going to do? Let's say you're working a job. We're all adults here. Let's say you're working a job and you're getting paid what minimum wage is. I think nationally is what, like 7.25, right? Let's say you're getting paid 7.25 an hour. You're not making enough to make ends meet. Your hours are terrible. The work environment is terrible. All of that stuff is bad. Let's say there's another job though, same hours, same everything is damn near identical. Okay, whether you're working for McDonald's or whether you're working for Burger King, if you're still making burgers, you're still getting paid nothing, you're still working the same terrible hours, the work environment is just as bad. Why would we say, okay, well, I don't want to work for Burger King because they're only paying minimum wage? Okay, that's a fair argument, but you're making minimum wage at McDonald's. You don't we Why are you defending making minimum wage at McDonald's by retorting and saying you're making minimum wage at Burger King? Acknowledge the fact that both of these restaurants are paying minimum wage. But every time we say something negative about McDonald's, it's hold on, but Burger King is paying minimum wage. Okay, we acknowledge that. But there is absolutely nothing that Burger King is doing that McDonald's is not also doing. But for whatever reason, there's a lot of leeway given to McDonald's that's not given to Burger King, even though there is nothing that Burger King does that goes on in Burger King that does not also go on in McDonald's. But we want to give McDonald's a little bit of grace, a little bit of a pass. And I'm saying why. And that is because we are emotionally attached to McDonald's. And we got to stop doing that.
Can I respond to that? Because the comparison would be McDonald's also offering healthcare, right? Affordable healthcare benefits, whereas Burger King don't want to offer those.
Black people don't have affordable healthcare like that, really, no way, even under McDonald's. But okay, continue.
It's an option for those who can take advantage of it, and that's going to disproportionately affect people.
Now if you okay, let's say that. Let's get what I'm saying. Okay, let's give you that. I want to give you a point. I want to give you a point on that. We also got to take the good with the bad, though. We also got to take the good with the bad, because there's a lot of things, negative things that go on under McDonald's that actually doesn't go on under Burger King. Like, for instance, the mass invasion of illegal immigrants that goes on under McDonald's. So if we're going to give them health care, which, I mean, you can make an argument for, but if we want to give them health care, if we want to give them a W, we got to also make them take that L.
Okay. I feel that trade-off, but I guess when Auntie Maggie was saying about life, when it comes to life or unaliving type of situation, when you need health care, when you need to see the doctor, or when you need food, or when you're pregnant and you're scared and you're starving, or you on the street.
That's right.
But that was there's nothing. Our condition has not progressed at all. There is nothing that was going on under Trump's administration.
Yeah, and we want you to realize it.
That was beneficial. That was not also going on under Biden's administration.
But we want you to realize that
when it comes to the healthcare, and we can bring up the whole thing about the healthcare. Trump been bragged about how he was going to take down Obamacare, and he didn't do it. Trump was bragging about that his whole thing when he was up against Hillary. He didn't do it. Obamacare stayed the same. And when Trump was up against Harris in the debate, he said, "Hey, yeah, I guess I ain't gonna touch it." So yeah, he bluffed about it, but Obamacare didn't go away. Okay, healthcare for Black folk is still just as bad as it's been in the last decade.
It's the system. It's
Not
systemic.
necessarily.
It is. It's actually.
I'm a little older. I'm 48
in
years old. I don't know if y'all know what insurance was like before the Affordable Care Act came. I mean, I just had a kidney transplant 2 years ago. That was $500,000. Prior to the Affordable Care Act happening, if you didn't have insurance or you had a pre-existing condition, they didn't have to take you. So that means they
I said the last 10 years. You're talking about the Affordable Care. I'm talking about the last 10 years.
The Affordable Care Act been in here for 10 years. I'm saying what happened prior to
longer than 10 years.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the healthcare system was way more detrimental to Black people prior to the Affordable Care Act.
It
Okay.
basically wasn't for us specifically, but it helps our community disproportionately.
No,
And
Yeah.
it does not.
I
Okay.
think,
All right.
listen, and
You
It
listen
know
to what
what?
I'm
really
saying.
And see,
didn't.
It
listen.
does
Here's
because
my
our
thing. Here's
community
my
have
thing.
more
Here's
pre-existing
Here is my thing.
disease.
Hold on.
When I start talking, everybody needs to stop talking, okay? Because I'm not gonna yell over you all. All right. Here's my thing. Black people, we receive scraps that parties, and you can look at Doge, you can look at all of this stuff that black people get, and I'm trying to give you guys health care. I'm trying to say that. But black people, y'all literally willing to receive scraps based off of healthcare that everybody else gets to get. So you're okay with being the
No, no,
foundation and the
that's where
be
you're going
quiet,
wrong.
ma'am,
We're
when I'm
not okay
talking.
about.
You know what? You're just gonna get off, okay? Because you keep doing that. Um, Black people receive absolutely nothing that nobody else also gets. But everybody else gets stuff that we don't get, but we keep making excuses out of insecurity that if we ask for something more, we're not going to get it. There is so much stuff that other people get that we don't get, and we keep making justifications for that. That's my problem. Because you can't make a single argument that a Democrat has done anything that we get that other people don't get. But there are things that they have given other people that we don't get. And for whatever reason, we keep giving that a pass. We keep giving that a pass and an exception. Well, at least we getting something. No, we are their base. We are the people who keep them in power. We should be getting more than anybody else. If we should be getting more than anybody else, why are we getting the least? Why are we making a rationale or an excuse for us getting the smallest slice of the pie that we made? We funded this. We paid for this, and we're getting the smallest slice, and we're trying to come up with some reason well that's okay. And this is why the Democratic Party is not going to do anything, because we keep making excuses as to why they shouldn't do anything. We are getting the least out of every other community in every single statistic. We are at the very bottom. We're at the very bottom. And we don't want to hold the people who are essentially asking us for our vote accountable. We don't want to hold them accountable, even though they're ignoring the people who voted for them. We don't want to hold them accountable out of what insecurity or fear. And we got to get past that. We
I,
We
I
absolutely
do.
have to get past
I
that.
understand what you're
Can I
saying, but what
can
do
I
you
say this,
suggest we should
Afro?
do?
Go
One
ahead.
moment. Can I say this? So it's 2:33 Eastern Standard Time, and there's six people in the box. I
Yeah,
don't
we're
know
not
if you're
allowing no
free to
more
come
other
back
people up in
tomorrow.
because we're about to close this out. And I appreciate everybody here. Damn, it's a lot of y'all
Yeah,
last week.
I think it was a good conversation, and
Yeah, yeah,
I
we're
didn't come off my mic screaming, so it was good.
Can I just answer the question real quick?
uh,
oh yeah, Michael,
sure,
yeah, I
Michael.
didn't get you a chance to get your answer for it.
Yeah, I definitely pick up what you're putting down. Shout out to everybody here. Shout out to the live, the panel, and the host. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak real quick. Um, with that said, I agree pretty much with everything that you said. I think it's really important that you. It seems like I would assume that you voted for Trump. So
I
with
didn't
that
vote for
said,
Trump, and I don't know if you were here earlier. I did not vote for Trump.
okay, I just assumed you were conservative. I don't know why, but let me just answer the question real quick. Who's worse for the black people, Democrats, Republicans? I completely agree that it's two heads of the same snake, like for sure.
Okay.
But with that said, it would be hard for me to vote for the Republican Party knowing that they're supported by the Triple K, the Triple K group, and that's currently. I know everybody says, "Oh, there's a party switch," and whoever invented, the
Hmm.
Dixiecrats or whatever. I don't want
Wasn't
to
gonna
debate
say
that.
that.
I don't want to debate that.
Did
I don't
you
want to
vote
debate.
for
Hold on,
Biden?
hold on. You had your time to speak.
Hmm.
Hold on. Okay.
Give
Hold
me
on.
just
I'm a
just let me say
mom.
this without interruption. It is a fact that the current Grand Wizard and the one prior to him endorsed Donald Trump. I'm not making a
Okay.
character judgment based on that. But that is a
Okay.
No,
fact.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just saying that's a
So
fact.
who
I'm
is
not
Now
saying
let's be, because I think BX has a very good question to that.
okay. And then
yes.
so
So
I'm saying
Biden, who was Biden's mentor? Is it Robert Byrd or something? He was notable within the white supremacy,
Yeah,
those
it could
groups
be. It
there.
could
he
be.
was the official
Right.
card
So I
carrying member of that
Right. A member. Yep,
group that we were
exactly.
just talking about.
I've heard that too as
right.
well. And I'm not gonna
Did
debate
you
that.
vote for Biden?
No, it's
Did
not
you
heard
vote for
that too. That's
Biden?
a confirmed thing. It's not a
No,
rumor. That's
no,
It's
I'm not a
confirmed.
fan.
confirmed. He was
No,
And
at
I'm not a
the
Strong
funeral.
Thurman who
okay,
were
but you
both
said
Yeah.
part of that group of people that you were referring to.
okay, but
We're
that's
talking
what
about Biden's
but you're
presidency,
pivoting.
the former
You're
president.
No,
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 I'm
we're
pivoting.
not
not. We're
pivoting. I'm
keeping the
asking a
same
No,
question.
standard. We're
because
keeping the same standard.
it says whose words
Right.
for the black people.
Because
I'm telling you, I'm giving you my
and
opinion.
then
I'm not asking.
you brought up Republicans and
I'm
Trump.
telling
You
you the
couldn't
grand
vote
wizard.
because
I'm
oh
telling.
no, because
See now,
the
everybody else
yeah,
got to talk.
support the
Everybody
Republicans.
else got to talk, but I
See, what you're not going to do is overtalk me, right? Because you brought up the Triple K and the Republican Party, and I asked, did you vote for Biden?
no.
Because we know who his mentor was.
Okay,
I
you
said
didn't
no.
vote for him. Okay,
Okay,
you
so
didn't.
then they
So why'd I have
both
to carry that
have
cross?
white tea people.
What?
So yeah,
Okay,
this is America, and unfortunately, they're also in our
Everybody else
police,
got to talk for a whole
our
2 minutes.
bureau, and some people got interrupted, and I asked questions for clarification too, didn't
Okay.
I?
All right.
Or you
No,
just got in here?
what's that?
Did you just enter the room, sir?
I did. No, I've been here for a while. No, I've been here for
yeah,
Okay,
a
you've been here for a little bit.
all right,
Let's
all right, Michael.
so you're saying that you're not going to support and I'm not going to argue that you should support the Republican Party, but continue. Go ahead.
right. So I mean, you're asking me which one I think is worse when the two last Grand Dragons supported Trump. That's an indication to me that whether you believe Donald Trump is racist, I don't necessarily think he is. But if they believe he is, you got to ask yourself why. So me, I think it's dangerous for any foundationally black American to be aligned with the same party that the Triple K is.
Okay.
And
Now,
that's
So
all.
we
and
can't vote
I don't think that
for
we should be
for
aligned with them
Democrat or
either.
Yeah,
Republican.
no, I
I
think
don't
there
think
should be a fourth
I'm
party.
letting it be very known. I'm not. I don't think that we should be aligned with them either. Do you think that? Now, I'm asking you a part two to that. Do you think that we should be aligned with the Democratic Party though?
No, I think we should have a fourth party because there's a third party that never does anything either. So we should create a fourth party based
Mhm.
on the fact that we don't really have anywhere to go. Because if we don't create a fourth party, we have no leverage. You know,
Okay, now let me ask you this, because when you came up, you weren't saying that we should come up with a fourth party or a third party or a different party. You came up and you blasted, so talking about it wouldn't make any sense for us to support the Republicans, and then I had to ask you for further clarification on your stance, and then you eventually had the same standard for the Democrats, but you didn't initially come up and say they're both just as bad.
no, I get why
You
you would step
initially
away
came
from the
up and started
Democratic Party.
blasting one party over the other party.
No, I get why you would step away from the Democratic Party. I do think that there is a lesser evil, but if you feel and a lot of people feel that they really didn't do anything, which I can probably agree with, then you got to step away from it at some point. Or again, you have no leverage. You just have a vote that's not really being used well.
Mm.
So I understand. I'm not just blowing hot air. I'm saying yes, we need a fourth party, a legitimate way to let the whatever parties in power to let them know that if they don't do right by us, they're not going to get that vote and it's going to go somewhere else. And if you can't go Democrat or Republican, then what are we going to do? Just keep talking?
Can I just jump in really quick here? Because when we talk about this idea of having our own party, then of course all the black people will vote for them and everybody else would vote for someone. We would never win. We can't have our own election. And I think that also attributes to why we can't necessarily always ask directly for our own favors or protection sometimes. You see what I'm saying? Because if we were the only, if it was just us versus white people and it was 50-50 or something like that, maybe that could be an idea, but us just having our own party doesn't sound
Well, we probably won't win.
productive.
We
Now
probably
here's
won't have
here's
our,
To work with
we
somebody else.
probably wouldn't
before we
have our
do
own
it, because
candidate that would win,
we're
but we
about to
could have a
wrap up,
voting
and
block.
I appreciate everybody. I'll have this conversation. I'm gonna have to make some time tomorrow. I'm gonna have this conversation earlier tomorrow because I'm gonna be busy, so I don't know exactly around what time I'm gonna be able to do this. But I'll have this conversation, even if it's for a couple hours. Y'all just follow me, and I'll have this conversation tomorrow, and I'll let you guys up. But let me address the whole argument about another party. The reason why I feel like that's not that that wouldn't be a good thing, but that's not the solution, because the solution is an agenda. Us having our own party, other groups of people, they have a lot of things going on. They have a lot of like, for instance, the small hats, they don't have their own party. The Asian community, they don't have their own party, but they do have an agenda that they come together on, and then they either use lobbying or they protest, they seek out certain politicians and stuff like that. They run off of their agenda. What we need is, when you talk about our own party, we need an agenda first. Like a lot of people are talking about, we all need to move down to one state. What black people need, and this is why I'm having this whole conversation, is because what black people need is to get on one accord as far as an overall agenda. Okay, not that we got to agree on every single thing, but when we have these conversations, one person is prioritizing this, one person is prioritizing this, one person saying we're not going to get anything, one person is saying that we shouldn't vote at all, one person saying we need this, and we're too many of us are on way different pages, and we can't come together on an agenda. So a party's not going to solve anything unless there's an agenda behind the party. There is, whether you agree or disagree, there is an agenda behind the Democratic Party. There is an agenda behind the Republican Party. When we say we want our own party, it's not because we just want a whole bunch of black people in the room. We want black people to be pushing an agenda. We have a lot of elected black officials right now. We as ethnically, we are the second biggest ethnic group presented politically. Well, racial group, okay, I would say presented politically, because then there's different ethnicities and within the white community, right? But these people do not represent our agenda. So it's less about a black face in a high place. It's less about a bunch of black people coming together. There needs to be an agenda. That needs to be the core behind everything we do. Absolutely everything we do. You know, so what should the black agenda be? Now, if you are a FBA, if you're a foundational black American, your agenda should be to promote reparations and to promote things that empower the lineage. All right. Now we can all get Ghana, whether you're from the diaspora or anything, a black first agenda that pushes black empowerment. Okay. And this isn't about people of color. This isn't about a minority. This isn't about this. But if we have a black first agenda, if we say this is the list of things that black people need to be doing, this is the list of issues, and we're going to list from top to bottom. You know who talks about this? Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this. If we say these are 5 points that we need, this is our agenda, 5 points on our agenda, and we're taking this to any and every politician, and whoever supports and backs our agenda, we're going to back you. You know, that's what we need, an agenda. We don't just need somebody who look black. We don't just need somebody who likes black people, because it's not about liking black people. You can hate black people. If you're going to follow the agenda, it don't matter. Because we get this on, well, who likes us the most, who doesn't like, it don't matter who likes us the most and who don't like us. It's about who follows our agenda, who follows our command. So we have to come together and we have to have a consensus on the agenda going forward.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Last words, wrapping up.
Yeah, we'll
I
allow
guess.
everybody on the panel to get their last words in. So let's start. Retro, you said you had something you wanted to say.
Um, yeah. Ultimately, I do feel like we're still gonna have to choose one party or another if we're gonna be realistic. I feel like we should work with other groups. I think the Democrats was conniving by bringing an influx of immigrants to steal the thunder from our votes, and now we have to acknowledge that we're gonna have to work with other groups in order to get a critical mass to push what we want done. And I believe your agenda is correct as far as siphoning money to, empower us and lobbying. And I think we have more people interested in civics right now than ever, which is a good thing. Even if they're just showing up to be a contrarian, maybe we can get people on the right accord. So we should take advantage of that. And
All right.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's get to Kayla. You got it.
I agree. I do think that we all need to come together and find a common ground in a middle ground. Um, my only issue with that is, like, we got to understand everybody won't be on the same page. Everybody don't share the same thoughts, the same beliefs, and even in action, everybody won't be on the same page. Um, and in moving forward, I'm always a Malcolm girly. I'm not a Martin girly. Martin ways work, but I think Malcolm would have had the best results. So I just think it just comes to us uniting and having a middle ground and understanding, like, okay, in order for us to progress, we all have to come together, no matter what we think, what we believe, and how we may see what goes on.
Yeah, I agree. Let me just add on to that. We don't have to agree on everything, but if we can find core principles,
Correct.
just core bullet points, and we can say we put everything else aside for these core bullet points, then we'll get it together. If we can get on code for a few issues, we can get it to. We don't got to be a part of the same religion. We don't got to be a part of the same um, beliefs as far as maybe liberal or conservative or anything like that. But if we can coalesce, if we can galvanize around some core principles as far as
Right.
the empowerment of the community, we gonna be straight.
Yep.
We gonna. So yeah, I agree. Let me get you, Michael.
Okay, yeah. So again, I'm picking up what you're putting down. For me though, I feel like I'm already in a fourth party because I kind of refuse to align myself with Democrats or Republicans. I kind of identify myself as black first. You know what I'm saying? And it just, I hear what both y'all saying, and so it's easier for me to be objective. You know what I mean? It's very easy for me to be objective instead of just when I hear something about Trump, then I accept it as the truth, or I hear something about Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I can I can accept it and do my research, and it doesn't make me feel a certain way. So, it would be nice if we could come back and, you know, readdress the issue or not. But I appreciate you letting me come up and
Oh
say
yeah,
what I have to say, brother.
I appreciate you for coming up. I appreciate you for coming up.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
That's
And we'll have this conversation. But if y'all follow me, we'll have these conversations. And so follow BX too, because she has conversations similar to this, even more frequently than I do. So you guys, if y'all want to be a part of these conversations, because this stuff is the beginning of a change. So if you want to be a part of the change, then follow us so we can start becoming the beginning of the change. All right. Shout out to my mod BX, and shout out to everybody in the room still. It's late, but you guys are locked in. I appreciate you all. Let's get to Big Red. You got it?
Okay, so I absolutely agree that we have to have an agenda to push. But I think it's got to start outside of politics. I think
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned Dr. Claude Anderson. He is a big proponent of group economics. I think it has to start at the grassroots. I think we have to start there because let's not be naive. It is not just about, votes. It's also about power. Who can push that agenda? So I think we got to start there.
Okay. Okay. Shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson. Yeah. It starts with the grassroots. It starts with the community. You know what I'm saying? That
Agreed.
that is what determines where we go politically. We change our direction politically based off of the needs of the agenda of the community.
Exactly.
That's why you see sometimes they might be red, sometimes they might be blue. It depends on whatever best fits them at that time.
Exactly. Because we
You
don't
know.
care who I mean, at that, once we have our agenda, our thing should be, we don't care who pushes it, as long
Hmm.
as it gets pushed. Like,
Yeah.
if we got to
Yes.
make if we got to work with the Republicans, we work with the Republicans. We got to work with the Democrats, we work with them.
Hmm.
But I think that it's got to start there.
All right. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Let me get to logic.
I just want to thank you for having me up. And I do agree with both you and Mrs. Big. I think that's been the biggest detriment to our community, us not sticking together. Uh, Together we stand, divided we fall. And yeah.
Yep. We gotta be locked in. We gotta be on code. Thank you. I appreciate you. You know, I appreciate everybody who's been up here. Y'all patience, even though there was disagreements, but we've handled things as mature adults as we should. So that was really good. Uh, and thank you. BX, you got it.
Yes, Afro. Another great live. I don't know. We have to. I had to remember that some people born in the South can still be immigrants. We don't really have our own spaces. They got to follow us everywhere.
Hmm.
So we have to just be mindful. Certain things, catch my ear, such as when the Nigerian kept saying, "Your ancestors, your ancestors, your ancestors." That's a got 'em. So that's why I told you to ask his ethnicity. But other than that, I'm really not for unity with any other group at this time. I think that we need to strategize with us only until we get to a place where you know, we're comfortable and stuff. But I don't, because we lose our purpose, right? Everybody's calling for unity, but we already have an agenda in mind. But once we start hooking up with them, their issues become the forefront. It
Hmm.
becomes everybody's fight, and our issues get suppressed. We've seen it time and time again. So that's why I say, awakening is a process. And so while others are awakening, we already went through our process. Now we're just blazing the trail, and I don't have time to coddle another group. It's going to be what it is, and it is what it is, and it is delineation for me.
I agree. I agree. That's what I was saying before. Like we're enough, and too often we have black people like no, we need to team up with other people. We need to group with, and we've had this for so long. We don't need other people. We really don't. These people need us. That's why when and I don't want to be too long with it, but that's what the whole deportation thing. They were coming to us for help. Like, hey, where y'all at? Every time
Mhm.
somebody is in trouble, they come to us like, hey, we need y'all. Where y'all at? You know what I'm saying? So they need us. We don't need nobody else. So all of this, well, we got to work with them. No, we don't, because like you say, when we work with them, their issues take priority over our issues, and then we never actually get to addressing our issues. We just working with them, but we're really assisting their agenda, which is a lot of times to be a buffer class over us. So we shouldn't be doing that.
Not at all.
But thank you. I appreciate you like always.
You're welcome. I
Y'all, for the
appreciate you
people in the
too.
chat room, follow me and her so we can have a good conversation going forward. I appreciate everybody. We've had disagreements, whatever. Me and BX have the same political stance that we don't care about none of them. We don't care about no Republicans or no Democrats or nothing like that, right? But, we do want to have the conversation as far as what our mind frame should be viewing both of them. Okay. Viewing both of the parties. We should keep the same standard with both of the parties going forward. But we'll have more conversations to really elaborate on that. I respect everybody who's been respectful with this conversation. We've had a lot of people didn't get a chance to speak. So just make sure y'all follow so next time you guys get a chance to speak. With that being said, it's almost 2 o'clock where I am. So I
Okay.
gotta go. And I know y'all got to.
Okay.
Y'all
Good
have a
night,
good night.
Afro. All right. Peace.